What's up guys, this is Scoopman5000 back for another action figure review, and today we are back with some Marvel Legends, and this feels big, this feels important, this feels exciting, and this is Iron Man Tony Stark versus Thanos from the final battle in Avengers Endgame. And I feel like if there was ever a definitive be-all end-all like Marvel Legends, or at least MCU set that you should get, I feel like this has got to be it. We got the main hero of the saga, and we got the main villain of that saga. And this, of course, is depicting the legendary snap-off moment from Avengers Endgame. Only one issue I have with the set, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but everything I'm seeing here looks fantastic. And then when we move to the sides, this will be difficult because it's such a large box, but you can see some Marvel characters on the side here, same kind of deal, different characters there, some of the Guardians. And what I find very interesting when you get to the Endgame poster, you know, Chris Evans, Brie Larson, Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson, no Tony Stark face. On the poster, on the movie poster, that is Tony, that is Robert Downey Jr. And obviously we got some Tony Stark heads in the box, but very interesting. I love how those like rights issues work where they can make a figure, but still he can't be on the packaging. Conveniently placed barcode on the bottom. So if you're looking on the hunt, I did order mine from Walmart.com, but we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna rip this package open. We're gonna take a look at Iron Man and Thanos. And here is Iron Man Tony Stark out of the packaging. And as for accessories, he's getting the snapping hand from the famous I am Iron Man moment, and then the alternate is a gripping hand. And then for the alternates in the box, you are getting a pair of fists, and then you're getting a pair of open hands. With those open hands, you can apply these blaster effects. These come with just about every Iron Man figure, movie and comic. This is a darker blue. Then we also do get a Lancer blade from Halo, whatever you call that thing. Definitely giving me that vibe. And then he's got an energy shield effect as well for his final accessory. Now for alternate head sculpts, we'll start with the one that comes on the figure, and this is the battle damaged. A little bit of scrapes and bruises, not really any blood because they can't do that on a retail release figure. The alternate head I think has the same sculpt, but this is a cleaned up version of Tony Stark. And then finally, even the neck is going to swap out, and then we're putting in the helmeted version of Iron Man. And this is if you just want a more standard look for Iron Man on your shelf. But I feel like if you're buying this set, this is for the Tony Stark head sculpt, because that is not something we get a lot. I think we got one like years ago in like Iron Man, one of the movie waves. And then the MCU 10 years, I think they re-released one of those figures with the Iron Man Mark 1. Other than that, that's it. That's the only times we've gotten a real good Robert Downey head sculpt. And like I showed you on the box, you know, they don't put his face on the box. Like there's some weird likeness issues and payments and stuff. He's probably just an expensive person to get likeness rights for, so they don't do it a lot. So that's why this feels very special. And I like that we get a clean Tony Stark head. We can put that on a suited body, and then this can be our battling Tony Stark Iron Man. But that clean head is definitely going to be useful on a suit body. And at every angle, and especially under these lights, this almost looks like a shrunken down Hot Toys head sculpt. As for the rest of the figure, this looks to me like a reuse, or a retooling I should say, of this Iron Man. And I shouldn't even say it's a retooling. I think the only thing that has been retooled is the torso, because obviously they had to make this swappable neck. Looks different to me than the one that came on this release. But other than that, lower torso, legs, feet, arms, everything like that is the exact same. And both of these figures had the same issue where they don't really stand all that well. I had to have Tony in this weird like one leg was out position. And this Iron Man, whenever I have had him displayed, always fell over as well. These Iron Man figures are not fun to pose around. That's my main issue, is that this looks great and all, but it's not fun to move around, and he does not stand up very well. He always wants to tip over. I don't know why I put Iron Man down. I want to bring him back so we can look at the color scheme. This figure came out for the movie, or maybe slightly after it, but it's based on concept art. It's based on an early design of the movie. You could see that because there's differences in a lot of the paint work on this one. There's less of the gray paint, and this lower piece, you can see it's a lot more accentuated here. There's gold here that isn't on this figure. So the design has been corrected and painted properly on this one. But when we get to the colors, you can see the red is a lot brighter, and the gold is a bit more darker, a bit more bronze looking almost. And I think this color scheme actually is more accurate to the movie. It's a paler gold, it's a more metallic red. So I really wish that it still kept this color scheme, and it's a shame we can't even really swap the heads because the neck isn't there. Really, other than that, I mean, I could sit here and like describe where each part of the paint is hit, but it's an Iron Man suit. There's always going to be a lot of little details. I think really the coolest thing and the only thing worth mentioning is the Infinity Gauntlet that he's got on this snapping hand. But I think for most of us, we're taking this figure. He's going to be down on his knees like this, and hopefully he'll pose a bit better, but he'll be doing the classic I am Iron Man snapping Thanos out of this reality. And overall, iconic and definitive for MCU Iron Man, I think, right here. This is it. For his articulation, and like I said before, not fun to move around these Iron Man figures, or at least the ones that I have from the MCU. For the head, looking up that far and down that much, despite the neck being separate, it's kind of locked in one position, so really the head's moving all on its own. There's a nice ball joint at the waist. It works well with an armored figure like Iron Man here, although I do not like the forward on this. It's really nothing. Shoulder does hinge, but it doesn't feel that great, and the swivel barely works. Bicep swivel is pretty standard. Double jointed elbow, and I guess that is better than nothing. And then for the wrist, standard hinge and swivel. No cut at the waist, and that's kind of a missed opportunity. I feel like right here is a perfect spot to cut it and just give you a bit more movement, but of course not. And that also means when you want to have him like standing to the side or something, he's always going to look a bit awkward. Legs don't kick back, they kick forward that much. Kick out that far. Swivel at the thigh is appreciated. Double jointed knee doesn't go all the way back. A hinge at the foot is very tight to work with, and even the ankle rockers on this guy are not the best. I mean, this one actually feels better, but on this side I can't seem to get it to move as much. And overall, he's tough to stand. He's tough to work with, but he does look great. And with that, let's try to get Tony to stand and behave. He's kind of leaning forward a bit, but I'm going to leave it, and we're going to go ahead and do some comparison. And if you're talking comparisons, you got to bring in that Mark 85 that I already showed you to show you the color differences. But here, I guess you could focus on the sculpting, the exact same parts that are being used, except for the head and the upper torso. And even the upper torso, I think, is just kind of retooled. And then here he is with the Iron Patriot and the rescue armor from Endgame. I guess this version of Iron Man can go with the Patriot, because I didn't even notice he was wearing blue in the movie until I actually saw the figure. And then when you go and watch the movie, you're like, yeah, I guess War Machine was wearing blue, but this is like bright metallic blue. Definitely not to go with the color grading of the movie. And the same thing with this Iron Man. He's bright red, so I guess they kind of work in a weird way. But here's your armored up Endgame crew. And then for some classic comic book designs, we got the AI Tony Stark, and then we got the War Machine. And I just got the wave that has Stealth Iron Man and Modular Iron Man and all those other armors, but I haven't opened it yet, so I'm not going to be showing them off. But you get the idea with this one. Modular Iron Man kind of scales like this, and the Cobalt Stealth suit is the same sculpt here. So if you want to throw the helmeted look on and throw this into a Hall of Armors, here's how that's going to look. This is interesting. Here he is with the Scarlet Witch and the Vision from Infinity War. And the Scarlet Witch scale is alright, but I'm pretty sure Vision is definitely taller, Paul Bettany, than Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. And if you look at the head sizes too, really tiny head on this dude. I mean, I think with the new White Vision, let's see, the proportions are a bit better, but still, he looks very small. And I'm sorry he's on a white background, but he looks small next to this Tony. So I don't know if I like that. And then here he is with the Endgame Final Battle Captain America, and then the Infinity War Thor with an Endgame head stuck on it. And again, it's kind of some not good scaling here. This Iron Man seems to be causing some problems because Cap, definitely bigger than Tony, but you could see, I mean, this Captain America was always short next to like any figure you put him with, but especially looking at like head size, something's not right. And that leaves us with the big bad purple dude, and that is Thanos. Now for his accessories, he's a bit lighter, but at the same time he does have enough. Plenty of head sculpts to choose from. The one we get on the figure is probably the most interesting and I guess the most unique to this box set, to this Thanos figure. So with that, he's all crumbly and he's all turned into dust. He's looking disappointed at himself. Then he's got two other bald heads. So one is a smiling version. This is when he's got the full gauntlet. And then he's got one that's more stern, or maybe this is when he looks over at his gauntlet and realizes all of the gems are gone. And then we do get the helmeted head sculpt, and I think this is the same head that came on the original Build-A-Figure that this is based on. Finally, he does have his big double-bladed sword weapon that he did use in Endgame, and that is what it is. It'll do what it sets out to. On the figure, you're getting a snapping hand with empty gauntlets. This is when he does it, and you just hear a metal clink, and oh, guess that didn't work. But before that, he was shown with the full gauntlet, with the full power of the Infinity Stones, and that is what this glove is representing, the full-fisted Infinity Stones in hand. And that's where I get into with my biggest gripe of this figure, and something that don't make a lot of sense to me, because like with the Iron Man, we have swappable hands, and we can put the helmet on him, and we can make a standard version of Iron Man. Now for Thanos, who's always been more expensive as a Build-A-Figure and a big box set, how they do not give you a swappable gauntlet and then a purple hand to go on the right side. You're only stuck with this look with the Infinity Gauntlet. And what's even more puzzling about that is if we go ahead and remove the hand here, we can remove this gauntlet. But as you can see, a bare purple arm is underneath that. We can get this gauntlet piece and the hand, put on the armored helmet, and now this is a regular Thanos. But you can't do that. You have to go ahead and put on the Infinity Gauntlet. So I'm pretty disappointed in that. And I'm sure whatever figure came with the right arm for Thanos is going to go up in value, or at least become harder to find. Now, I don't have that Build-A-Figure, so I won't be able to tell you what the difference in paint is and things like that. But I will say, this is my first Thanos Marvel Legends, at least for the MCU. I do like the options here with the different head sculpts. I'm going to get him another arm, and then this will be a pretty good Thanos, a very good figure. I do prefer the Endgame look. I don't really like the armored up version in comparison to the one with the, the brown pants, the blue and gold shirt, the bald head. I like that look from Infinity War. But, I didn't buy them when they were out, and so now I'm stuck with this one. And I will enjoy it. But really ornate, armored up bits. And I do like the gold color. Very nice paint on that, because gold color can look really bad on figures sometimes. It can look cheap. With this figure, it actually has the opposite issue, because I think the gray pieces do look cheap and plasticky. They're very shiny. They could use a dull coat, but you don't want to dull coat the figure, because then you're going to dull up the gold pieces. So really the only way you're going to fix that is if you're very talented, you can masking tape every single gold part, or you can dull coat them and then repaint all the gold yourself. On the back, you can see not as much paint. Maybe there's some missing here. Looks like there'd be some more gold to be filled in. And even this looks kind of messy and just like a big block of gold. And also I'm noticing too this kind of gray pattern here. I can't tell if that's battle damage or if that's intentionally part of the design. So the Thanos, not as versatile as the Iron Man, but still a great figure. And if you're like me and you didn't have an MCU Thanos, kind of need to pick this up. It's kind of a no-brainer for the price that it is. For his articulation, if you have the Build-A-Figure, you know what you're getting into, but I don't, so let's find out. So the head sculpt is on a hinge and a ball. We saw that when we removed it. Goes up that far, down that much, and some tilting rotations. Obviously, slight variations when you put on the different heads, but they're all going to move just about the same. Nice big meaty ab crunch. Goes back that far, forward that much. You heard the ratcheting noise. Shoulders do swivel and they hinge, but there is no bicep cut. I was surprised by that. Never really seen a Marvel Legends without a bicep cut, or at least it's a rare occurrence. And then for the elbows here, he's got a really deep elbow, but it is only one joint. It's not a double elbow, but it does go past 90. As you can see, like I said, really deep cut, but it doesn't really break up the sculpt that much. Doesn't look like there's any swivel in the waist. I'm removing the legs while I'm doing that. The legs kick out that far, back not a lot. I should probably be using the other leg. That one seems to be behaving a bit better. Forward you can see is that far. There is swivel there, of course, and you're probably going to be removing legs if you're like me. Double jointed knee is actually better than Iron Man, if you can believe it. And then there is a hinge and an ankle rocker at the foot. And that does just about do it for Thanos. Not a lot new if you had the Build-A-Figure, but I guess he's new to me. With that, we're going to go ahead, put him next to some other figures, and let's do some comparison. And we'll start him out with the semi-recent Infinity Gauntlet Thanos. So you can see this is kind of the classic look for Thanos, and that's where the armor draws inspiration from. And then I wanted to show him here with the Build-A-Figure Endgame / Ragnarok Hulk. Hulk's definitely a lot bigger, and I don't know if I like that. And then here he is with the same Thor and Captain America that we just showed off before. And then we'll show him here with some other big beefy dudes of the Marvel Legends. We got the Mr. Hyde Build-A-Figure that I reviewed, and then here's the classic Hulk that came with Wolverine. So you can see these Build-A-Figures all around the same height, but obviously some more girth on the comic book versions. And overall, that does do it for the Iron Man versus Thanos 2-pack Infinity Saga, and really a great set. I mean, there's obviously issues with it as I went along and looked at some of the scale and some of the articulation, things like that. But nonetheless, you got Iron Man, you got Thanos from arguably their most important appearance, and really one of the biggest moments in that whole series in any comic book movie. We're seeing that depicted here. And Iron Man's going to fall over, but nonetheless, a great set. I'm going to find a way to get Iron Man to behave, and then I'm going to have a great little display for the MCU, and I got two big, gigantic additions to that shelf as of this video. As always, I'm going to be taking some figure photography, and you can see more of that on my Instagram, scoopman_5000. You can check out some of my older videos, including Marvel Legends, back on the channel. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next action figure review.